This is a show that brings to the forefront newsmakers, entertainers, and those making a difference in our lives and in our world. Each week is a new adventure with topics ranging from the most serious and cutting edge to the most lighthearted and entertaining.
This is Taking Care of Business with Richard Solomon.
Greetings, everyone. Richard Solomon, Taking Care of Business. Once again, we are going to be talking about Disney World in Florida, and no better person than Eric Paul to kind of continue on that journey. In fact, just the other day I was on Facebook and someone said, "Hey, who does Disney planning?" And I said, "Hey, I happen to know someone." So I actually sent a link of a prior show, but we're going to go in a little bit more in depth. Today we're going to talk about the Magic Kingdom because it's really, I guess, in many ways, the premier Disney property. Is it also the first and oldest?
Definitely, and a lot of people when they well, first, thanks for having me back, Richard. It's always a pleasure to
love having you
do this.
And it is the happiest place on earth, other than WCWP.
That's true. But a lot of times when I talk to clients, they'll always say to me when they're trying to when they really are trying to refer to the Magic Kingdom, they'll just call it Disney. So I'll say, which parks do you want to do? And they say, well, we definitely want to do Disney. And I'm like, well, Disney's four parks and 2 water parks and all this other stuff. But they really are referring to the Magic Kingdom, which is definitely the main focal point for most people when they're traveling down there.
All right. So let's talk about what does the Magic Kingdom offer, as far as, it's got like everything. Having just been there, there's these, the Bippity Boppity Boutique. These like little hidden things. There's the rides, there's food. What's the overview? And then sort of like, let's talk about in terms of seasons, because they have it's a very beautiful place.
Absolutely.
And you wouldn't, it's funny, if you asked me before you go to a place like Disney World, would you say that it would be beautiful? No, you think of like rides and entertainment and music and maybe tie-ins to television and movies and things like that and characters that but it's actually a very well-groomed, beautiful place.
Oh, absolutely. And, Disney is really amazing in general. Their upkeep and the way that they do everything. My family, we actually moved down to South Florida a little less than 2 years ago. And last September, there was a hurricane that was coming to South Florida. And we were told by many neighbors, you got to go to Orlando during a hurricane because they're well suited. So we went to Disney, and I got to tell you, which we could do a whole show on how amazing it was just to be in Disney World, not just in the parks, but in the different hotels and all the different locations while a hurricane was going on. But the fact that this hurricane was there pretty much most of the day Sunday and half a day Monday, and they reopened the park by Tuesday, and there was definitely damage. You could see it from the hotels with trees and other types of landscaping, but you walked in that park on Tuesday and it didn't look like anything was going on there. It was tip-top shape. They must have had people working there from the second they could until the minute the park opened. It's really an amazing place just as far as upkeep and, literally everything around you. Everything is specifically placed for a reason, and if you really take the time to look, you can kind of see that. But they really do an amazing job, and whoever I don't know who's in charge of that, but it's truly definitely a thankless job. And it is. You're correct. It's a beautiful place, and it's really amazing when you look around.
So let's talk about the seasons. I noticed like in Epcot, even though we're talking about a different park, there's all these beautiful flowers that they have, like a flower festival, I guess. And
yep.
So in Disney, like, how does it work? Let's kind of go through the year. I assume they have things for New Year's. I assume going forward.
Yeah. So specifically, Magic Kingdom, their big things are in the fall and the end of the year. They have what's called Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party, which is the whole park transforms into this humongous Halloween party with all types of events and parades and characters that normally aren't there, and they hand out candy, and it's really, really amazing. And then as soon as Halloween's done, they start with what's called Mickey's Very Merry Christmas Party. And that's very grandiose and everything you could expect from the minute you walk into that park, with everything decorated for the holidays at night. It's really, really magical. I mean, we send a lot of people down there specifically for those things. But you're right. I mean, different parts of the year. You referred to what's called the Epcot Flower and Garden Festival, which basically goes on in the spring. It just ended back like Memorial Day weekend, and then Epcot towards basically mid-August till mid to end of November will do their international food and wine show, which is really, really amazing and probably one of the most popular events in all of Disney throughout the year. But yeah, and then, I mean, Christmas there is incredible. New Year's is definitely great. They do special fireworks and other types of things. You'll hear me refer to this a lot when we're talking about Disney, and I tell this a lot to clients. They have really given you many, many reasons now to have to go to every single park. It's no longer, oh, my kids are this age, or they're only this height, or they only like these characters. Every park now has a nighttime show or a firework. All the parks are pretty much open, late. Animal Kingdom and Hollywood Studios used to close, 6, 7 o'clock. Now they're open till 10:30, 11, depending on the time of the year. But it's very, very hard now to say, we are only going to go to Magic Kingdom or just going to go to 2 parks because, as I said, they're just opening new stuff. They're building more rides. They're just doing a lot of great things, and they're giving you different reasons to go to different parks. The Magic Kingdom obviously probably has the most to do. It's definitely got the most attractions. Epcot, they added some really nice rides. It's got everything with the countries. Hollywood Studios has Toy Story Land, which is the newest part of all of Disney that's going to open at the end of June, and that's where all the Star Wars stuff is. So anyone that likes Star Wars, they think they have to go to Hollywood Studios. And then Animal Kingdom is where they opened Pandora, which is based on the Avatar movies, and even they have an unbelievable nighttime show now. So there's really, I mean, we could spend a lot of time just going through each park, but Disney again.
We may.
But Disney's done a very, very good job of making you want to go to every park and making you want to come back after you do it.
All right, so let's circle back to the Magic Kingdom. So the iconic symbol, of course, is the castle. Mm-hmm. And, so let's talk about sort of, first rope and the opening ceremony. Talk about that, because that's kind of really...
Yeah, and, they actually changed it. It used to be they had, they would let everyone through the turnstiles, and right as you walk through the turnstiles, before you actually walk into the park, there's a train station that's kind of right above, and you used to have to just crowd around there, and this train would come by, and there would always be a family that was like the honorary family, and a conductor, and Mickey and a couple of the characters would come off, and they would basically do this ceremonial opening of the park. But Disney got smarter, and I want to say about a year ago, they now let you into the park basically up Main Street USA, which is, of course, where all the shops are, so that you can get into the park as much as 45 minutes to an hour early, depending on when they decide to open the park. This way you could do some shopping, you could take pictures in front of the castle, and then about 5 minutes before the park opens, they do this show called Let the Magic Begin, which is a stage show right in front of Cinderella's castle, and it's a similar theme to what they were doing with the train, but it's now, they have, a lot more characters, and, it's just a bigger space, and it accommodates a lot more people, and again, it allows them to just attract more revenue, because you can't do anything other than shop or eat for that first hour until the park opens.
So let's talk about the photography, because I noticed that if you have something called a photo pass, mm-hmm. they give you the opportunity to have professional photographers who wear a little vest that say, I think, Nikon or whatever it is, and they're like the gray kind of professional photographer, and they have really good cameras and equipment, and I think you just kind of tap them on the shoulder and say, hey, could you take a picture of us? And they'll pretty much take a picture of you in all these different locations.
Yeah, so another great service. It's called Memory Maker. It costs $169 as long as you add it at least 3 days before you go. But that service basically gives you unlimited photos and videos for your entire trip. Now, what you're talking about is that a lot of the parks, or all the parks, have photographers that are strategically located throughout the parks, and you could take as many photos as you want. The beauty of the service, then there's a lot of pluses. The main plus I always tell people is, when you go somewhere, someone's got to take the picture. So somebody's not in the photo. Well, with PhotoPass, which is part of their Memory Maker, someone at Disney's taking the photo for you. So everyone's in every picture. There's no more of, at least in my family, my wife was always taking the pictures, and we would come back, and she's like, "There's no pictures of me." So they've kind of eliminated that fighting amongst families. They also do a lot of cool things. If you do happen to take a photo with someone that's located within the park, not on the rides, they do this thing called a magic shot, where they'll have you pose a certain way, or tell the kids hold your hands out, or point up or point down, and then when the photo gets developed, there'll be a character in there with you, sometimes a video type of a thing, and then even better is there's so many rides and attractions that actually take photos and even videos of you while you're on the rides without you even knowing it. And everything automatically links to your memory maker through your Magic Band, which is another great perk of staying at a Disney hotel, is they give you this bracelet called a Magic Band, which serves many, many purposes. It's your room ticket, your park, your room key, your park ticket, your charge card, dining plan, memory maker, a couple other things. But the beauty of it is, I always tell people, when you go to the park, you wear your Magic Band and you bring your cell phone. You don't need anything else. You don't need your wallet. You don't need your camera. Obviously, no keys.
Raincoat.
Right, raincoat or poncho. Right, it's not gonna cover you for that. But
no, especially if you go on like those water rides.
Yeah, of course. But the beauty of the Magic Band is that's what Memory Maker is using to basically know who you are and to link it to your account. So when you come home from your trip and you go and link to your Memory Maker account with all these photos and videos, all of a sudden you'll see a video of you on Seven Dwarfs Mine Train or the Tower of Terror, or photos from Splash Mountain or Pirates of the Caribbean that you didn't even realize that they were taking because you were on the ride and you weren't really expecting a picture to be taken. But it's definitely a good value. I always recommend it to people, unless you're going to go for like one day. It's probably expensive to do, but if you're going for multiple days, it's a no-brainer. Moms love it. I mean, most families love it, but moms especially, just because they want all these pictures, and you don't have to worry about all these pictures getting taken because people are doing it for you. The other great perk is if you are going with like a group of people, you just need to buy it once, and you could link everyone to your My Disney Experience account. So it's also a decent
a good value.
A good value. So yeah, I mean there's a lot of good perks to it. I've never had anyone get it that wasn't kind of blown away, and also blown away that you go to the parks for 4 or 5 days. I mean, you guys went for over a week, but I mean, whenever we go for 4 or 5 days, I mean, we probably have 400 to 500 photos and videos on there. It's really amazing.
Oh yeah, we squeezed it out.
Yeah.
I think we were shameless about being in every picture possible.
Right, and I'm a value person, so I'm like, oh, it's it's 8 cents a photo, or whatever it works out to be.
And if you buy, I don't want to sound like the commercial for Disney here, but if you buy the DVD, download, so to speak, I mean, you can download everything for free, but they also say, hey, if you want us to just download everything onto a DVD, we'll mail it to you for like, I don't know, it was like $30 or something like that.
Right.
But what they threw on top of that were all these great stock photos.
Yep.
Just scene shots of, night, day, fireworks, characters, parades, and all this other stuff. And so it kind of makes a nice little add-on to all the photos. So if you have 400 or 500 photos and then they add 100 or so of their own photos, you really get an incredible photo array.
Yeah, no, they really think of everything. When you think that they haven't, and then they do stuff like that. And then when you get back from your trip, as you said, you could purchase that DVD, but they give you 30 days to basically go into your account and download it to any computer you want. And when you're doing that, they give you all sorts of things. You can make borders, you could add characters to things, and then you do whatever you want with them. You could go to Shutterfly or whatever photography site that you like and print them out. So all they're basically doing is charging you for the service, and then you decide how you want to what you want to do with the pictures and how you want to develop them. You know
how at the end of the year there's always like the holiday card or whatever. Yep. See, it's great for that because you take your picture,
absolutely,
and then. Let's say you go before somewhere between January and October. So in those 10 months, you've got your picture. So when it comes time to do the end of the year card, Happy New Year thing, You just take one of the one photo that the family's in, and then you're done.
I can't. I probably at least 3 or 4 times those have been our holiday cards. Absolutely.
Right. All right. So you walk through the main entrance, and you go past. Now, what's in the castle?
The castle actually has a couple of things. It has the Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique, which is the salon that they dress the girls up like princesses. Right next to it is Cinderella's Royal Table, which is one of the princess character meals. And that's really it in the castle. There's actually a room that's on the top of the castle that occasionally they let some families stay in. It gets used a lot for like the Make-A-Wish Foundation. Really nice stuff like that. But other than that, I mean, when you walk through, that's really all that's there. Is the boutique and then the restaurant.
All right, let me tell you about the Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique. I saw they really pamper you. It's like really, hair and they really do
nails,
hair,
makeup,
nails,
and everything.
makeup. Because I've seen these little people coming out and they look elegant and dressed, and they give them a little bag of stuff with combs and shampoo and
tie it to the Memory Maker. When you get Memory Maker, if you book Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique, I mean, they will tell you alone that when you're in that salon, they'll take it. I think it's like 60 to 70 pictures just when you're there. So that alone makes Memory Maker just an incredible value, just because, you have, of course, you want to take pictures of your daughter, and they actually do stuff for the boys too. They dress them up as knights and stuff, but it's obviously more popular for the girls. So on that aspect, it's great as well. Yeah.
Now, what's very interesting is, just speaking of the photography, if you give the photographer your cell phone or your 35 millimeter, they will be happy to use your, which is actually a very, very nice thing. That so it's like, hey, here's my camera. Would you take a picture of me with my phone, my cell phone, whatever, my camera? And they'll do that, and that actually gives you the benefit of then texting or Facebooking or social media,
and
all the pictures.
And that's a great point. Yeah, I mean, that's just the type of place it is. They're not. As much as you're,
they're not chazas.
Well, as much as they're nickel and diming you, which they really don't. When you're in the park, they're not nickel and diming you. They could easily say, "I'm sorry, I'm not allowed to do that. I can only take it with the Disney." But they'll happily take whatever photo you want on whatever device you have.
They're a for-profit enterprise, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But they just don't go beyond the limits of good commercial business practices.
Yeah.
Because when you say, "Hey, would you take a picture with my cell phone?" They're like, "No problem."
Yeah.
And nobody loves hearing anything more than "no problem" than someone who's paid for a trip. And,
absolutely.
We only have these shows just fly. Maybe when we come back, we'll talk about the food in the Magic Kingdom, because I know there's all these different places to eat, and we actually, by the way, for all those listening, we have a map here because I need a little bit of a cheat sheet. So there's a map, and you walk down Main Street, and there's sort of there's Frontierland, there's Liberty Square, there's Fantasyland, there's Tomorrowland. We're going to talk about all that stuff because it is just a real fun place. All right, Richard Solomon, taking care of business. BestDisneyTrips.com on the web. Eric Paul is our guest. Nobody knows Disney more than him, except for maybe the Disney people on the ground, because But other than that, Plus, the good news is I may not be able to call the Disney people, but I can call Eric, and you can catch him right here. We'll be right back.
Hi, this is the Great Thordini. You're listening to Richard Solomon on 88.1 FM WCWP.
We are back. Richard Solomon, taking care of business. Richard Solomon with Eric Paul. Now, Eric Paul, bestdisneytrips.com. He is the quintessential expert on all things Disney. And if you want to plan a Disney trip, this is the expert. So, and I say that because I actually really know that to be true. I don't need to go on the internet to check that. I actually know that from, deep inside. All right. So let's talk about the Magic Kingdom. So you walk through Main Street USA, and there's all these shops and food and stuff. And they have some interesting things. They have the train.
Yep.
The train that goes around the park.
Yep.
So at the beginning. Now, I noticed that one thing they have is at the beginning they have like a little flag area. And I noticed that at the end of the day they do a flag lowering ceremony that's actually very, very moving and very, very patriotic. I think they do it at like 5 o'clock every day. And it's been a tradition for a long time at the park.
Yes.
I think that's very cool.
And there was actually someone just pointed out, it was actually my brother, and a very interesting fact is that if you look when you walk down Main Street USA, there's all these flags on top of the buildings. And with flags, they have to be, you're right, they have to be lowered at a certain time of the day. The ones that are on top of all the buildings do not get lowered because they're actually all imperfect in some way.
Oh, wow.
But the one that you're talking about is a perfect American flag. Maybe it's missing a star, the other one's missing a star, but just little kind of facts like that. Just, you know, when you've been to the park, I mean, I've been too many times to talk about, but, you know, just little things that you just don't notice. And when my brother pointed that out, I was like, you know, I don't even know if I noticed all those flags, but not only that, and then, yeah, why are they not being lowered? And that's kind of why I thought that was kind of cool.
All right, so you walk through Main Street USA, and I know there's like camera stores and food and all this great stuff. And then I guess you come to sort of like the castle. Mm-hmm. And is the castle sort of the epicenters?
Disney just actually, over the last year and a half, redid that whole area you're talking about. It's like, they actually call it the hub. And what they did was they opened up a lot of space, made some viewing areas for parades and fireworks. But what it really did was, and you know, you won't really know this or see this unless you're there, is when the traffic is all leaving the park at one time, it now kind of flows a lot better than what it used to do. But yeah, so that's kind of the hub right in the middle where Cinderella's castle is. And then around that hub, you have all the different lands. So as soon as you walk up and the castle's in front of you, on the right you have Tomorrowland, then behind Cinderella's castle is Fantasyland, then keep going and it's Liberty Square, then Frontierland, and then if you come back towards the hub, you hit Adventureland, and then you're back right into the middle where is Main Street USA.
Now let's talk about each one. So let's go to the right. So Tomorrowland, which I guess on the clock would be 3:00.
Right.
Was that basically what was in the World's Fair?
Yes.
To the
exactly.
most part? Yeah.
Yeah.
Was Disney part of the World's Fair?
It was. There's actually an attraction that was in the World's Fair, which is called the Carousel of Progress, which is still there. It's great. It hasn't changed. My kids still like to do it, which the thing is it's in this moving theater. So picture being in this pizza pie, and the theater rotates, and each little section it takes you through man's progress from the turn of the century, pretty much. Because if you listen to what they say during it, Walt Disney was infatuated with the idea of progress, and it really shows, you know, how we progressed. The funny thing is, it ends probably in what's like the 80s, you know, and so it's just funny to watch that, you know, whenever that was first made, that was sort of like the future. And now we look back on everything that's in that part of it, and it's, you know, it's so long ago.
Yeah, I remember sort of like being in Epcot, and it was the same thing. They had this, you know, when you're in the, whatever you call that thing, the sphere?
A Spaceship Earth. Yeah.
Spaceship Earth. And you see it goes up to say 1980, and they talk about the invention of the CD, and it's like...
Yeah. Well, they actually redid, and now it ends with how they talk, at the very end of it, before you start going back down on that ride, is it talks about how a couple of young kids in a garage in Seattle figured out how to put a computer in basically everyone's lap. So they, you know, it used to, they a couple of years ago redid that ride, and it used to not go that far into history.
Wow. Okay. So now what's in Tomorrowland? There's sort of there's a
couple of main things. The main attraction there that probably most people relate to it is Space Mountain, which is one of the most popular roller coasters in all of Disney. An indoor roller coaster that's in the dark. Doesn't have any loops, but it's got a couple drops, and it goes pretty fast. But it's pretty iconic. Most people, you know, that's one of the main rides that they want to go to, especially young kids. It's a 44-inch height restriction, so once the kids hit that height, that's the one they're kind of going for. Still a fan favorite of all my kids. It's definitely one of the, as soon as we walk into that park, that's one of the ones they want to go to. It's actually, the interesting thing is, it's got 2 different tracks, and, the amount of times, I mean, we've gone on it so many times, I think the tracks are different, and my kids argue as to which one they think is faster or better, but, I definitely do think that they're different. Other attractions there, number one of my all-time favorites is they have a ride called the Tomorrowland Speedway, or not Speedway, sorry, the Tomorrowland People Mover, which is basically kind of a cool ride. I remember going as a kid, and I would always go on that ride first because it actually takes you on a tour throughout Tomorrowland. So it's almost like a preview of all the things you're going to do. It starts out, and it takes you through Stitch's Great Escape, and then it takes you through Space Mountain. It takes you through the Carousel of Progress, and then the Buzz Lightyear ride, and then also even the Monsters, Inc. comedy show. It's a slow-moving ride. We still love it. I love to do it first. It's also a great ride, and I tell this to a lot of people. It's a ride that typically doesn't really have a long wait. So if you're in that area and maybe the lines are a little crazy, or maybe you have some people in your family that want to do Space Mountain and some don't, and you need to wait, it's a great ride to go on while other people are going on something else. It's also a great ride to go if the lines are just too long on other things and you just need a break. And kids just love rides. That's why I love Disney. I love rides. I always make a joke that I could go to an all-day insurance seminar if it was on a ride, just because I love rides. I just think the concept of being in something that's just moving, it makes things more interesting. And that's kind of why I always love the People Mover.
I'll have to alert the continuing legal education and continuing accounting education people that maybe they need a reformat.
Exactly. But other attractions. So you have the Tomorrowland Speedway, which I already kind of talked about. That's the race cars.
Was the Tomorrowland Speedway, was that the Goodyear Grand Prix way back when?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Yes, because it was called that a long, long time ago. Yeah.
Yep. So that's part of it. Kids still love doing that because that's where else can you drive a car on a track and really feel like you're doing it. It stinks if you're taking young kids and they want to drive because all you're doing is going to the left and right, and you
the divider, yeah.
Right. But when your kids are a little bit older, and it makes it a little more tolerable. But that's a great ride. You have the Buzz Lightyear Space Ranger Spin, which is not a lot of people get it confused from Toy Story Mania, which is in Hollywood Studios, but that ride is a Buzz Lightyear and Zurg, which is one of Buzz's nemesis from the Toy Story movies. It's a shooting arcade game. You shoot things for points. And there's actually, if you look it up on different websites, they'll tell you there are certain targets on that ride that are worth a lot more points.
Right. So you have to be judicious in your execution of your shooting.
And my brother did once and sent me that he got 989,000 or something, when everyone else is getting 10,000.
And do you get anything for being the high scorer?
No. When you get off the ride, it says if, based on the range that you scored, you're a ranger, you're a cadet, whatever. So yeah, it's just I guess pride and peace of mind.
Is there any great food in Tomorrowland to talk about?
Yeah, well, Tomorrowland has a couple
or is it more
things.
like ice cream and things like that?
Yeah, well, no, there's actually this one sort of quick service place called the Tomorrowland Terrace, but it's seasonal. It's not open all the time. One of the most popular quick service restaurants is actually in Tomorrowland. It's called Cosmic Rays. It's a quick service restaurant. It does, burgers, chicken sandwiches, salads. They have a very big fixins bar. It's been there for a long time. It's very popular. It's one of the ones we frequent just because everyone in my family, there's something that everyone likes. And the food's actually pretty good. We've talked about this before, but I told you we could do endless shows on the dining alone. And the one thing I always tell people is the food in Disney is a lot better than you think it is.
Yes, because when you think of amusement parks, you really think of sort of kind of just standard fast food,
Yeah.
And this really isn't just standard fast food,
No.
I mean, they have fast food items.
Yeah, you can definitely get your burger and fries,
Right.
and the burgers are good.
Yeah.
But there's plenty of healthy options. I mean, Disney's also unbelievable with people with allergies or dietary restrictions. I mean, I've sent so many families and so many worried moms, and rightfully so, because their kids have nut allergies or what have you. And all of them, I mean, they're really just blown away by what Disney does for these people, because they have a tremendous amount of options. If you're going to some of these table service restaurants, the chefs actually come out, meet you at your table, talk to you, show you what you can eat, tell you what ingredients were used, really gives them peace of mind. They really go above and beyond. And I always tell people, Disney, I really think Disney kind of sets the standard with that. And the cruise line does a pretty good job with it too. But when you're going to other types of places, resorts and what have you, maybe they'll have a couple of gluten-free options or whatever it is you're looking for. Disney really goes out of their way to just accommodate everybody. It's really, really amazing.
This is a great segue to the Disney app. You can, and let's talk about this. On your portable phone, you can pre-order your food. So let's talk about that, because that's kind of
Let me tell you something, Richard.
It's an interesting concept.
It is, and I got to tell you, this is definitely one of the hidden gems of Disney right now. The amount of, I was there. I was in Disney about 3 times in the last 5 weeks for various reasons. Some for business, some for vacation, and it was definitely a busy time of year because the kids are out of school in Florida, and it's always busy in Disney. But the lines for these quick service restaurants were out the door, and you go on the app. And we literally walked into one place. It was a quick service restaurant that we go to in Animal Kingdom, and the line was out the door. It had to be 50, 60 people deep just to get to the person that will tell you which register to go to.
Wow.
And I go on I go on the app and I order my food, and you hit a button and it says, "Tell us when you're here and we'll prepare your order." And I hit it again, and 5 minutes later, I'm at the counter. There's a separate counter to pick up the food, and they hand me my food. So I just bypassed 70, 80 people just by ordering my food online. It's amazing, and I when this catches on, but for anyone that's not using this app not using the mobile ordering feature, you're definitely costing yourself a lot of time, because and you can order it at half an hour, 45 minutes in advance, because it's a 3-step process. Once you order it, they then notify you and say, "You tell us when you're here, and then we'll get your order ready." So it's not like you have to worry, "Oh, I have to order it 5 minutes before I get there because it's not going to be hot." They're not preparing it until you tell them that you're there. So it's really, really amazing. But that's definitely a great feature of the app. The app also can help you with other things. It's fast passes, other things like that. Just this week, they announced that it now tells you what the wait times are for the buses at the parks and the hotels.
Oh, that's critical, because you can actually. Well, look, if you don't really know when the bus is coming, you really, you can just stand there.
Absolutely. The buses were, they were a big issue for a lot of people, because they say they run every 20 minutes, which is true, but, things happen.
Sometimes they're full.
Right, sometimes they're full. There's a lot of people on wheelchairs and motorized scooters. That takes time. But you could.
They can only handle so many scooters per bus.
Yes.
I remember hearing there was a group, and there was a lot of people with scooters, and they're like, "We can only take X of you." I forgot I don't know if it was 6 or 9, whatever it was. So you have to factor that in.
Yeah. But all these things that take time. But, you could run to a bus stop, and you might have just missed a bus, and you don't know. So you could be standing there for 20 minutes. Now, it's been a lot better, because now at the bus stops, they have these flat screen televisions that tell you, if it's 1 p.m., it'll say the next bus to the Magic Kingdom is coming at 1:06 or whatever it is. So you'll know whether you just missed one or if one's on the way. And it updates. If it's late, it'll change it to 1:07 or whatever it is. But now it's on your phone. So now when you're in your room or you're in the park, and you could tell, you could see when a bus is going to be coming and plan it accordingly, so that you can try to limit your wait times.
One thing I remember that was an important point that you told us is that you can there are local supermarkets that will deliver to your hotel room, and for example, we got a couple of cases of water,
right? And
then we brought water with us, because it was just so much more affordable to do it that way than to waste all your meal plans on water and things like that.
Yeah, and the other amazing thing about Disney, and we talk about, when we talked about how the photographer will take your photo, and how I say they don't really nickel and dime you, you can bring in pretty much anything you want to the park. It's a big question I get from a lot of people. The only things you can't bring in are glass bottles, hard coolers.
Right, well, that makes sense, yeah.
And weapons, which of course should be, pretty self-explanatory. But you want to, I mean, you don't have to waste your money on water and drinks and snacks and whatever. They encourage you to bring it. They, a lot of people aren't aware of it, and they think that they can't because, you're used to going to, you go to a stadium. You can't even, you could barely bring your cell phone to a stadium now. It's
right. And it's like sports arenas.
Yeah.
Right. You can't even, maybe a couple places allow you water.
Right.
But it's got to be sealed. It's got to be all the way full to the top.
Yeah.
Now
a lot of they also if you see there's a lot of things online that a lot of these quick service restaurants, they'll give you a cup of ice water for free.
Yeah.
We bring especially when we're going at hotter times of the year, I'll bring the sports bottles that my kids play sports with, because pretty much every park has at least one quick service restaurant that has a self-service beverage location, and I'll take these big squirt bottles and I'll fill it up with ice and water and walk around with those, rather than, it's a lot easier than spending $3.25 every 5 minutes because your kid needs a sip of water.
Right. Now I guess we should talk, boy, time flies on a show like this because we only have like another minute here. We should probably talk a little bit about the meal plans.
Okay.
Let's start that, and I'll just tell you when we're running out of time. But what are the different meal plan options?
So there's three main ones. There's a quick service only plan, there's a standard plan, and there's a deluxe plan. Most people will get the standard plan. What that entitles you to is it comes with one quick service meal, one table service meal, and 2 snacks per person per night. That's a big factor about the dining plan, is it goes by the number of nights. It doesn't go by the number of days. Because what Disney is doing is they're assuming that when you start, you're starting at lunch and you're going to leave basically after breakfast on the day that you leave. And we could talk about more than that after the break.
All right. So Richard Solomon here with Eric Pohl, bestdisneytrips.com. You need to go to this website and you need to look at the Contact Us button, because no one will plan a better trip. Really, the trip that he puts together is really custom made for your particular group. So this is Richard Solomon. This is Taking Care of Business, bestdisneytrips.com. We'll be right back. And as always, thank you for listening. This show is just flying in time.
Hey, this is Jeff Mattson, the Dark Star Orchestra, and you're listening to Richard Solomon on WCWP 88.1 FM.
Welcome back, Richard Solomon and Eric Pohl, bestdisneytrips.com. All right, we're going to have to do the lightning round on the rest of Disneyland, because 18 minutes per segment is really not sufficient. We could probably just start at 8 in the morning and just do continuous broadcasting about, the whole Disney experience. So let's talk about Fantasyland.
Okay.
All right. What's in Fantasyland? Let's talk about the rides, the food, and all that other good stuff.
So main attraction in Fantasyland now is called the Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, which is the newest ride in all of Disney. It's also got all the iconic rides: Small World, Dumbo, Peter Pan, the carousel in the middle. It's got a couple of the Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, PhilharMagic, which is a 4D movie, which is really, really cool. A lot of people either don't remember it or don't know it, but it's definitely one you want to hit when you're there. And then it's got a couple of new attractions. They actually did an expansion of Fantasyland a couple of years ago, which is when they built the Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. They added Enchanted Tales with Belle, which is a very cool attraction. It's actually a walkthrough experience where you walk through, Belle's house, and then the Beast comes out and Belle comes out, and they actually take you in groups of like 25, 30 people, and they take the kids out of the audience, and they give everyone a part, and they reenact the story of Beauty and the Beast. There's also a Little Mermaid ride. There's the Goofy Barnstormer, which is like a younger kid roller coaster. And they actually, if anyone hasn't been there in a while, they actually took the Dumbo ride and moved it to a different location, and now they have 2 separate Dumbo rides with a play area in the middle. In fact, when we go, my kids like the play area better than the Dumbo ride. And so they actually did it so that you don't have to, instead of waiting online, your kids can play in this like indoor playground. Well, my kids like to tell them, we're not going on the ride, we're just going on the indoor playground. But that's
I know that Ariel in her grotto is a great photo op.
Yep.
The Small World, wasn't that at the World's Fair?
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
So if you were at the World's Fair, you could relive that.
Yeah.
That's kind of like a cool ride.
Yeah,
it's very historic.
It's iconic.
Yeah.
It's been there forever. The only change they've really made to it is now at the end. Another cool thing about your Magic Band is it actually, at the very end, it says goodbye in different languages. And now it won't do this for everyone, but it'll hit one person's Magic Band and it'll actually say, you know, goodbye, Eric, or whoever they're hitting.
Oh, wow.
As you leave. Yeah, so it's kind of cool.
Goodbye, Mr. Bond.
Right, exactly. Or aloha, or whichever adios, whichever language they're doing that day.
Now, I know that Mickey's Filler Magic was kind of fun.
Yep.
Peter Pan's Flight was a favorite, at least for the smaller people.
Yeah, and Peter Pan's Flight's been there forever. It hasn't changed. It's actually one of the busiest rides for whatever reason. I think it takes a little bit of time to load it, but that's always, whenever we're doing fast passes for people, there's like Seven Doors Mine Train, and that park's always number one. Peter Pan's up there because within the first 45 minutes of the park being open, it's going to be at least an hour wait just for whatever reason. It's kind of cool. I mean, it hasn't changed. It takes you like you're flying in a sailboat over, the story of Peter Pan and Wendy and everyone from that story. But if you've ever been on it, it's exactly the same. It hasn't changed.
All right, now the Be Our Guest restaurant. Let's talk about that.
Be Our Guest restaurant was another new part of the Fantasyland expansion. Very, very cool restaurant. It's kind of unique. It's quick service for breakfast and lunch, and it's table service for dinner. It's also, you can't get in unless you have a reservation. It's the only quick service restaurant in all of Disney that takes a reservation, and you need a reservation in order to get in. That's not to say that, lunch, you have a very hard time getting in if you don't have a reservation. Sometimes for breakfast, maybe people are canceling and you can kind of talk your way into it. But even, any breakfast, lunch, dinner, they're all kind of hard to get. But at dinner, they have the Beast that walks around. But it's a very, very cool experience. The food there is actually really, really good. I wish they had a little bit more of a variety for kids. It tends to be like healthier items, so if your kids only eat, hamburgers and chicken fingers and that kind of thing, which most of my kids only eat, sometimes you have a hard time. I think they have a grilled cheese, which that sort of, accommodated my kids, like over the years. But the other food there, especially for adults, is really, really good. It's definitely one of the better food quality quick service restaurants in all of Disney. And as I said, it's the Beast Castle. There's all these different rooms. There's a room that has the rose, and it like goes dark every few seconds with lightning, and things happen on the paintings and stuff. And and there's two other rooms basically all from the movie. So it's definitely a cool experience. If you've never done it, I definitely recommend at least trying to go there for lunch, if not for breakfast. And it's a very good value on the dining plan because the food there is definitely more expensive from a quick service standpoint. But if you're on the dining plan, a quick service credit is a quick service credit, so it doesn't cost you any more.
And it's kind of very majestic, long dark tables, big ceilings, the library.
Yep.
And the Beast looks very, very serious.
Yeah.
All right, Liberty Square.
Yep.
Let's start. There's the Hall of Presidents, Haunted Mansion.
Yep. That's pretty much everything there, other than they have like the boat that goes to like Tom Sawyer Island over there, and the Country Bear Jamboree, which is pretty much Frontierland, but it's kind of right on the border. But yeah, the Hall of Presidents and Haunted Mansion are really the two main attractions there. They closed the Hall of Presidents for a while last year because they added President Trump, who now speaks in it.
Did they use his real voice, or do they have somebody? Yeah.
No, it sounds like his real voice.
Because I know, like Abe Lincoln, they had to like fake.
Right. Well, I would think so, right? I would hope so. And Haunted Mansion's right there, as you said, still one of my favorites. And I always kind of tell people, it's definitely not like a scary ride. It's just really, really cool. I mean, it's definitely the best haunted house you'll ever go in. And you would expect that from Disney, but just really, really cool experience. Still do the iconic thing at the end where they superimpose, one of the ghosts riding in the car with you at the very end, which they've done for, a long time. I still get a kick out of it.
Yeah, it's a very cool special effect.
Yeah.
In terms of food, there's
Columbia Harbor House right there, quick service restaurant. It does a lot of like, fried fish and different type of seafood items. There's other things, but that's really the main fare there.
Isn't there like a fruit market or something?
Yeah, right outside there. It's like an outdoor thing. It has fresh fruit and drinks and stuff like that.
One thing I kind of felt about Disney is that there weren't enough places to get sort of like a banana or an apple, because sometimes you want just that kind of a snack as opposed to like a candy bar or something.
Yeah. No, in all the parks, there's definitely a couple of places that'll have that.
Right, but it's not ubiquitous. That's my point. It's sort of like you have to go to the oasis of healthy food.
Yes. Yep.
So yeah, but I remember going to Liberty Square for that. All right, Frontierland.
Frontierland is, it's got Country Bear Jamboree, as we kind of said, but the two main attractions there are Thunder Mountain and Splash Mountain. Both, iconic rides. When people go, those are two of the main things they want to do. Also, great rides to Fast Pass back-to-back because they're right next to each other. I personally think, and again, I'm a value person, I think Splash Mountain is the best value ride out there. It's like a 10-minute ride. It's, when you go on a lot of these rides and sometimes you wait on a line and, the ride's over in 30 seconds and you're like, I waited for that. I mean, when you can go on a ride like Splash Mountain that has 4 pretty good drops and then 1 really big drop and, it takes 9 to 11 minutes to finish the ride, I think that's good value.
Speaking of value, does it pay to have a little poncho or rain gear?
Of course.
Okay, because all I remember is seeing some people getting just soaked.
Yeah. Well, Splash Mountain doesn't get you. I mean, I've been on a lot. I can't say that I've ever gotten soaked on it. I think I get maybe splashed in my face a little bit and maybe, my shorts get, a little kind of splashes. I mean, there are water rides in other parks where, you literally looks like you showered with your clothes on. Splash Mountain's not one of those. But yeah, tons of people will wear ponchos because they think they're going to get drenched. You definitely get wet, but nothing, where you have to go change into a different outfit. And, depending on the time of year, it's hot there a lot and most people want that anyway. But yeah, it's a great ride. But yes, definitely bring ponchos with you. Disney will happily sell you anything you want, but it's a lot cheaper to bring it rather than buy it there.
Now, I noticed here, Splash Mountain, 40 inches.
Yep.
Thunder Mountain, 40 inches.
Yep.
So it's kind of cool that at least they give you the warning on the map ahead of time.
Yeah, Disney's a pretty, I always tell clients, one of the first questions we ask is when we're talking about kids, how tall are your kids? And I always tell people 40 inches is really the magic number. 40 inches gets you on mostly everything. There's always going to be a couple things. So when you're in Magic Kingdom, Space Mountain's 44 inches. That's it. Everything else is Thunder Mountain and Splash Mountain that are 40. Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, that's 38 inches. So if you're 40 inches, you're going on everything other than Space Mountain. We could, when we do shows about the other parks, we can hit those, but again, 40 inches gets you on mostly everything.
Now, if people are interested, I'm going to be doing a side business on putting lifts in shoes to make children taller.
Don't laugh. My son once was trying to get on a ride that was 48 inches, and he was literally 47 and a quarter, and we took a pair of socks, and I folded it over and put it underneath his heel in his sneaker, and when he measured, he was 48 inches. But think about it, because a lot of kids, they try and go on their tippy toes, and all I told my son was just stand normal, because he was already being lifted up without
give him a lift. Yeah,
right,
yeah.
And his shoes were on the ground, and he got on. Look, it's not going to work for if you're 2 or 3 inches shorter, but if you need that half inch,
if you just need that little extra,
yeah.
See, if anything, we should hook up with an orthotics company,
right? Exactly.
To say, hey, if you need to make the cut, here you go. All right, Adventureland.
So Adventureland has a couple of, iconic rides. Pirates of the Caribbean. For some reason, to me, Pirates of the Caribbean is most Disney of everything. It has nothing to do with Jack Sparrow or even that movie. When I think of Disney, when I think of Magic Kingdom, I think of Pirates of the Caribbean. I don't know why. I've always loved that ride. I love being in that boat, in that whole experience. There's just something about it to me that always brought me back. Again, I would go in as a kid and everything. So Pirates of the Caribbean's there. The Jungle Cruise is there. The Magic Carpets of Aladdin, which is basically the same ride as Dumbo, but with Aladdin. But when you want to talk food, Adventureland is where my favorite thing of all is, which is a Dole Whip, which is a pineapple ice cream float. That's very popular in Disney. They sell hats, they sell shirts. If you ever go online, and people talk about it, it's a very, very popular snack item, and it's really good. Disney's now making cupcakes out of it. They have it in some of the hotels. It's just, and the main part is it's in what's called Aloha Aisle, which is one of the snack stands there in Adventureland. And the other thing I always tell people it's like a $6 item, and when you're on the dining plan, it counts as a snack. So you can use a snack for a $3 bottle of water, or you could use it for a $6 Dole Whip. Good value.
Right. So you have to, you have to really squeeze your value where you
Absolutely.
can find. That's why you need to talk to Eric about, all these things. All right. So in Main Street USA, I remember there was a buffet
Yep.
with, was it
Winnie the Pooh.
Winnie
Yep.
the, yeah, it was
It's called
Winnie the
Crystal
Pooh,
Palace.
Yeah, Eeyore
Yep.
and
Crystal Palace.
Actually, Tigger went up to me and went, which I thought
Yeah,
was,
that's another.
which is hilarious.
Yeah. So that's a character meal that's right in the middle of the park, kind of set up right. It's set off kind of right next to where the entrance to Adventureland is. Yeah, it's a Winnie the Pooh and Friends character meal. They do lunch, they do dinner, they do breakfast. Another great perk, and well, not really so much in the Magic Kingdom anymore, is pretty much every park has at least one character meal, and if the park opens at 9 and you can make a breakfast reservation at 8, well, you're not getting on rides any quicker, but if you're already in the park and you're already through security and already through the crowds, and then you finish breakfast and like by 9 a.m. or a little before, the park opens and you're ready to go and you're just that far ahead of everyone. So we always try and make breakfast reservations for people. When I said in the beginning of the show how now they do the stage show right by Cinderella's castle, well, that sort of eliminated that whole advantage because now everybody's kind of getting to that point. But it's also a very good way to not waste time when you're in Disney because you want to maximize your ride time, and the earlier in the day you're definitely going to do more things. And we don't recommend to people to sit for meals in those first few hours just because that's probably your peak riding time as opposed to other specific times probably later on in the day. But sometimes people want to, and that's fine. We'll structure it however they want, but it's definitely a good advantage in a lot of the parks to get in there early.
Let's talk about it because we only have 4 minutes. Unbelievable. It's like the whole thing is sort of like just flying. Okay, there's parades and fireworks.
Yep.
Let's talk about that.
So Festival of Fantasy Parade, pretty much every day at 3. Sometimes, depending on the time of the year, it'll change. Sometimes it's 2. Sometimes it's 3:30. Very, very cool parade. It starts in Frontierland, goes through Liberty Square, makes a right by the castle, and then shoots down Main Street USA. And the good thing with all the parades and all the fireworks is they do them every day now in every park. So whereas it used to be, well, for the most part, depending if, sometimes, especially in Magic Kingdom when they have the Christmas party and stuff like that, the park closes early, but then they're doing different parades and different fireworks and stuff. But predominantly now, we don't have to worry about scheduling someone to go to a specific park on a specific day to see a certain parade or a show, because everything's every day. So you have that always in the middle of the day. They used to have what was called the Electrical Parade.
I remember
night,
the electric parade, yeah.
which they had until about, I think maybe like a year and a half ago. They actually moved that to Disneyland. So they don't have it at Magic Kingdom in Disney World anymore, but they do now have their nighttime fireworks, which is called Happily Ever After. Very, very cool show. It's got some fireworks. They do a lot of projections on the castle. It encompasses a lot of, the iconic Disney movies and some of the newer ones. Frozen's obviously huge, and things like that. And that again is every single night. There's also, if you're in certain restaurants, like if you're in Ohana, which is my favorite restaurant in the Polynesian during like the fireworks, even though you can't see the projections on the castle, you can still see the fireworks, and they'll actually pipe the music in during dinner. So, there's some strategic ways to kind of see things also while enjoying food. But their fireworks and all their shows are really incredible. I mean, they obviously spare no expense, and they continue to make changes to them. They add new ones, but as I said, they've done a really good job of at least making them every single night, so that you don't have to kind of guess anymore.
Well, it was kind of cool. You feel like you're almost in Times Square on New Year's Eve,
right,
except
exactly.
without the freezing cold,
right,
and
exactly.
the rain, and all the other, the nastiness.
It's definitely a lot warmer, and the weather's a lot better. Absolutely.
What's interesting is you have all these people and all these children, everybody just packed. I mean, it's just packed down the street. What's the strategy on where to stand or where to be? And how early do you need to get there? Yeah, well, I think that's kind of personal preference. As I said, they kind of redesigned that whole hub, and now they have strategic viewing areas that you could fast pass. Those are obviously really cool. I don't think
the parade's different. The parade, you definitely want to get a spot at least 30 minutes before if you want to find something in the shade, maybe 20 minutes before just to get a spot. But the fireworks, you're just kind of looking up. You can kind of see it from everywhere. And as you said, it's packed. So there's going to be a lot of people. And then when it ends, they turn all the lights on and everyone kind of funnels out the park.
All right. Well, speaking of when the lights end, everybody funnels out of the park, we're funneling out of the station. So thank you for listening. We'll have to have you come back.
Thanks so much, Richard. Pleasure to be here.
BestDisneyTrips.com. Eric Paul. No one knows it better. We'll see you next week.